So for the standard test, the building has to consist of one or more units of living accommodation, not consisting of self-contained flats. So what we're saying here is we're after just what you'd see as a standard house, a traditional house format with a group of unrelated people sharing. So the occupation must be by people not forming a single household. So if you have a family living at the property, even if there's loads of them, you cannot call that an HMO because they all form one household. If you've got multiple households, either any arrangement where you've got more than one household occupying the property, then you can say that it satisfies that criterion for the standard test. So if you've got a couple and they're moving a friend, then you've got two households. If you've got three friends living together, you've got three households. If you've got a family, and let's say they move in a number of lodgers, three lodgers, then you've got yourself four households. So that's how you pick up the persons not forming a single household. It's got to be the occupier's only or main residence. And there's all note in there about students and refugees. So what do we mean by that? Well, these are two special groups. So students in law are a special group where you're only or main residence because you spend half your time in term time residence, and technically you spend half of your time in your home residence if you're still living with family. Then you can argue that they have two only or main dwellings. However, so their main residence. However, every other group, people who live in the UK, have usually got what they regard as their only or main dwelling. So this is usually where they're registered to vote. And it's also where they might be registered for things like council tax. It's where they spend the bulk of their time living, where they've got their tenancy agreement or where they own the property. Refugees are the only other exception to this, and the refugees, unfortunately, they don't have an only or main dwelling, an only or main residence. They can have a temporary address that they use. However, is that the refugees cannot be counted in amongst the occupiers of a residential property because they have special legislation covering them. So for the purposes of this piece of legislation, then you have to defer to whatever it says for refugees. Different rules apply. So we then think of 4, the occupier's occupation of the living accommodation must constitute the only use of that accommodation. So if you've got somebody that works from home, that's okay. But if you've got someone that's actually living within a business premises, say for instance they've got bunk beds in the back of a food preparation kitchen or similar, then that isn't the only use of that accommodation. So again, we're coming back to this classic house scenario where it's what you would think of as a typical residential property. So people that work from home, they've got a little office in the spare room, that doesn't count. It's still dealt with as being residential property. So rents must be payable or other consideration provided for at least one occupier. So I had a bit of a pickle with this one when I was dealing with a property that I was looking after for a collection of refugees, or asylum seekers. So first of all, they come into this other bracket, but more pertinent to this issue here is that the refugees or asylum seekers, they weren't paying any rent to live at this property I was looking after. What was happening was that they were being asked to go and work on some allotments nearby. And the idea was it was a reciprocal arrangement. They had 5 allotments. As part of your requirements for living for free at this property, along with a collection of other refugees and asylum seekers, was that you had to go and do some time working on the allotments. So you were working in lieu of your payment of rent. And you get a lot of people that have jobs as waiters, and the waiters will work for their accommodation. So that is counted as if it was rent. Finally, you've got sharing of one or more basic amenities. So this is bathing facilities, toilet facilities, and kitchen facilities. So bathing, toilet, and kitchen facilities. If one of these 3 facilities has to be shared with other households in the property, then you've got the final requirement for the standard test. So have a think about these 6 different requirements for the standard test HMO. Thank you very much.